and I'm here with my lovely co-host, Jen Conkey.
Hello, everyone.
And we have an amazing guest for you guys today. You are just going to absolutely love him and walk away with beautiful insights. And quite frankly, I feel like more guidance and intentionality on how to find joy in your life and how to find balance in your life. So I'm super excited to introduce to you Dove Love. And Dove, I'm going to turn it over to you for now to just tell our audience a bit more about you, introduce yourself, and oh my gosh, let's just get this goodness flowing.
Okay, sounds great.
All right, so tell us.
I'm a resident of San Diego, California. I've been in California 20-something years. I work for myself. I have a private practice based out of my residence, and I help people with all kinds of things in the world of personal transformation and self-improvement.
Nice.
Love that.
All right, personal transformation and self-improvement. Okay, what types of things do you help them with?
It can be like a real range. Kind of what I call, what I do is a multidimensional healing. And that breaks down into...
That's a great concept. I love that.
Yeah. So I break it down to 3 simple kind of stages or phases within what that healing is. And the first is clearing the past. The second is activating the present. And the third is manifesting the future. So for all kinds of reasons, with different people from all walks of life, different ages and backgrounds and reasons and goals that they're pursuing, really just do that process. Clearing away, removing obstacles, helping people release emotions, negative patterns of the thoughts, emotions, beliefs, stories, behavior, physical pain, helping with linguistics. I mean, it's really broad. Sometimes it's card reading, sometimes it's energy medicine, but it's all centered around people's intuitive development and empowerment to live as an authentic self, to be their true self, which I think is the real basis of a true spiritual path, is really just figuring out and getting to that place of really being yourself, and then finding out how to integrate that into the rest of the world, how to be present in the world as your truest self. I'm
obsessed with authenticity. So thank you.
So that's definitely one of the big things that we work on. Getting out of your head and all of the kind of madness that gets created when we really use that as a central place for our being, and come into our heart, come into our feelings, helping people really understand that emotions are really powerful, that we shouldn't be afraid of them, that they're really the most raw stream of information that we have, most accurate and informing information that we have all the time. All the answers, everything we need is really in your heart, which means it's really in your feelings, not your thoughts. So I help people get reorganized with some of the basics, the mechanics of change, some keys to freedom, just simple reorganization. Like I said, with getting people aligned and centered and grounded, with the heart being the center, knowing that the mind comes after that. So it's really helping people shift from one way of living, from a certain program or pattern, into really following your feelings first, then thoughts, then actions. And when we
Dove, everything you're saying, I'm in love with, just so you know. And then also, I'm going to be the first person to book a session with you upon finishing this podcast.
Great.
So just go ahead and look for my email in your inbox.
Yeah. So, it's a real range. Sometimes people come in because they have just a physical pain, which generally, we start to undo that a little bit, and we get to the emotional root of whatever that is, or a trauma story or something else. But some people show up with physical pain. Some people show up because they want clarity, or they want guidance. They want to ask questions. They want to hear, they want a sense of validation, which I don't really love that word, but they do want some kind of reflection, of a sense of
am I crazy, or is this really?
Right, they want, instead of validation, let's say they want grounding. They want to be reassured that, because they already have the answer often, and it's just me really helping them find the confidence to fully accept and integrate what that information, what that answer or that guidance is, to say, you know what, that is okay. And I don't need to use my fears to minimize it, or to suppress it, or to say, to kind of shut it down. but in fact, I'm allowed to choose myself. I'm allowed to align to love, and I'm allowed to follow through with the guidance that's in my heart, right? Which is always going to be based around what are your needs? What are your desires? You know, what do you feel like your purpose is? What do you want your experience to be? And how do you feel safe in the world? And those are all the main ingredients that you need to go over every day to inform yourself, you know, to really have that navigation and feel confident in then what you're doing. So
that's awesome.
Some people just want to come in for simple things and it turns into big things. And some people want to, you know, I've worked with people over long periods of time, and some people just come in for one visit and I never see them again. So I'm less attached to those things. I'm really just available.
Sure. Cool. So how did you come into this? Share with us your story. Like, how did you come into this? What skills did you realize you had? And then, you know, how did you just decide, I'm going to make this a business?
Yeah, it was very guided from a very young age. It was something that it was a capacity and it was a sensitivity that I've had my whole life that at a very young age was showing up, and it's just a matter of kind of figuring out what that is, because it's not always that you have an environment that understands that, or people that are having the same experiences that can communicate to you and kind of coach you through it. So it's a whole journey of life, having some inherent abilities and some gifts, and kind of getting to understand them really young, getting to experience them. At least I had an environment that allowed me to be myself. Maybe it wasn't ideal, and like someone was really picking up on what was happening and saying, oh, here, let's guide you this way, or let's help you with this. But at least I wasn't made to suppress things. I wasn't made to like ignore them, or I had the freedom to be myself. So that right there is huge. and I thank my mother for that all the time. Because when you have that freedom and that openness to explore yourself, then you can really find your purpose, and you can explore whatever gifts or whatever abilities you have. You know, maybe you're really athletically inclined, or maybe you're really good with numbers, or maybe you're really, you know, whatever, you're an artist, or you're this or you're that, or just to be yourself, to be your most authentic and true self. And so through that process of having that openness and having, I guess a predisposition of openness with myself, even though, you know, growing up, experiencing different traumas, experiencing, you know, the hardship of growing up that I think everyone experiences on some level. I always had a deep connection with myself. I always felt a partnership or a union with myself. I guess that's probably where I would say it all begins, because that led me to a determination and a sense of commitment to explore myself, to understand myself, to embrace myself, to love myself, maybe when I felt like others weren't. And so developing that relationship then in turn helped me develop my abilities. And a lot of things are just guided. A lot of things are synchronistic. So meeting the right people, having the right experiences that seem to be kind of mapped out or just happen at the right timing along that journey of development and understanding and self-realization, self-actualization was really that journey. So, you know, I could see energy, I could hear and feel people. I'm a medium too, so I can work with entities and energies on the other side.
That's what I was going to ask. I wanted to ask if it was just intuition, or if it was mediumship, or you connect with your spirit guide, or you know.
That. So there's a lot of different types of ways that one can be psychic, or one can be kind of tapped in or tuned in. And I guess I got like the buffet of it all. So I kind of can do everything.
Okay, fancy.
Not to be in like a bragging way or anything, but I'm ultra sensitive, so it's not. Some people are just clairvoyant. Some people are really, really tuned in to like one specific channel, and a lot of them are tied in with your senses, right? So, I happen to be really broad in that sense. So,
like mine is clairsentience, and that's pretty much it. I don't hear things, and I've said to spirit, I don't want to see anything.
Yeah. So I get to do all of the things. So that includes psychometry, right? So that includes remote viewing. that includes, you know, I've always had a real easy access into past life information, like soul records and soul information with people.
Yeah,
I've
Doug, you
always
just
been
need to
able-
block out a day. I'm just gonna just with you because I'm so intrigued right now. This is amazing.
Yeah, so communicating with animals, you know, being gifted with healing, touch healing, seeing auras, you know, just all kinds of stuff. So
Wow, you really are the buffet.
yeah.
So I have a question.
Really quick though, that is a lot for a child to deal with and grow up.
Oh my gosh.
I don't want to minimize. I don't want to minimize and be like, well, my journey was kind of easy because I was open and it was a lot of.
I can imagine.
A lot of pain, a lot of suffering, but ultimately, you know, for my own personal glory, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, yeah, and to serve the world.
Yeah, but go ahead.
What were you gonna ask?
To cut you off.
Oh,
no.
it's okay. It's okay. I have a question. You had already mentioned earlier about the energy therapy, and then just now you just talked about touch energy.
Yeah.
Like, can you walk us through what that means? Like,
Sure.
I'm familiar with when we have a trauma in life that it can develop, like it manifests in terms of baggage inside of you, and then you could just have energy that's trapped inside of you. And just, can you, for our audience that may not know that this is even a thing, what does that look like?
Well, to make it really simple, energy medicine or energy work or energy healing is really just about working the energetic body. So that means working on the chakras, which are the energy centers, which all kind of have particular themes and particular things that they kind of govern and they kind of maintain, and they help us stay really connected to, and they help us with different functions and different things. So, you know, at the most simple kind of base is that you're working on the energy system of the body. You're working to clear blockage, to clear congestion, to clear stored and stuck things, to help that energy body be at its best, right? So with that being said, there are a lot of different types of energy medicine, energy work or energy healing. There's Reiki, there's pranic healing, there's
touch healing.
I mean, there's so many, you know. They all work on life force energy, essentially. Whether you are you know, whether you're channeling that and kind of and sharing that with a client or with a person, another person, with hands on the body, or maybe, you know, pranic healing uses life force energy, but it's more about drawing from the environment a little bit and sharing with that person, and it's not necessarily a touch-based thing. There's polarity therapy. I mean, there's just so many things. So I've studied a lot of these different things, and I incorporate them. I don't ever really use anything singularly, unless I get really guided to be like, oh, it's just this, you know. I have a bit more of an integrative approach. But there's so many different types of energy medicine, and I definitely encourage anyone and everyone to explore and experiment and invite that into their lives and experience that wherever they feel safe, wherever they feel like they feel safe to go and have access to. I definitely would recommend it. It is transformational, and it is a big part of what our real wellness as spiritual beings in physical bodies require on this planet.
So, Deb, one more question. I mean, I'm going to have several more, but
I know I have like 20.
Energy.
So okay,
Right?
so
I told you I said this could be a multiple part series.
It might need to be. It
we might have to make it a multi-part series because I'm like, okay, we can ask more questions too. Okay, go.
I think that
Does that answer your question though?
If you could answer, you know, like for some people that, how do they know? Like, what are the indications that they need energy therapy? What are some of the symptoms or things that might prompt them to say, oh, maybe I should try that out?
Yeah. Mystery pain, mystery illness. That's an easy jump off place. If you have stuff that you've been to the doctor, you can't figure out, or maybe you haven't been to the doctor, but because it doesn't seem maybe that extreme or alarming, but there's something that's kind of nagging you. Unprocessed emotions, feeling stuck in any way, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, or beyond. Any type of negative experience you're having, whether, again, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, or beyond, energy work's going to be a an agent in getting all of those things back to homeostasis or harmony or balance. Oh gosh, I mean, I don't think there's anything that can't qualify.
Yeah, that's so.
Because really quick, here's the
along,
thing. It's a really great non-invasive way to start with stress reduction and elimination. And stress is at the root of all illness and disease and disharmony. Just relaxation, opening up the breath, very, very kind of simple things that energy work can start to help you shift, that are all like foundational with greater healing, right? So whether you're working on something really big or really specific or not, it's going to help with these really kind of baseline ways of creating sustainability for yourself.
So Dove, along those same lines, and I don't even know if you'll have an answer to this, but I guess I'm curious, is there, from the standpoint of like the work that is needing to be done in the world right now in this moment, is there a common theme of like people who are coming to you, or not people who are coming to you, but like of things that you're healing? Like, is there something that's common that you feel like, gosh, I am seeing a lot of this right now in the world that needs healed? Like, this is a theme. This is something that we could create awareness around with our audience. Like, what would that be?
I feel like there's several.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I don't know if there's one answer to this. But
I also have noticed because I've been doing this type of work and working with people and helping people for a long time, I've also noticed that things kind of go in waves or trends, or like, we have a collective consciousness. We share a consciousness.
Sure, exactly. So, that's why I was like, what's up with the world right now?
There are these kind of like themes, and I do feel like there will be kind of months or whatever periods of time where I do see waves of people coming in, kind of dealing with a central theme. And then there's overarching ones too, I feel like, that have to do with the planet and civilization, kind of where it's at now and how it affects the individual, how it affects the spirit and the body experience. And yeah, so I think to answer your question, I guess more specifically, I would say the main thing is, again, that intuitive development piece. There's a year or two ago, basically everyone on the planet's psychic abilities or sensitivities doubled, right? So we know that we're in the quickening. Things are moving faster on the planet. Technology, communication, media, all these different things. So as things accelerate, it's a little counterintuitive to the types of energy and practices that we need to do to continue to cultivate our intuition. So people are really in this conflict, trying to live in a modern world, be a modern person, be up to date and doing all these things, and it is really counterintuitive. And so people are showing up because they're freaking out because the number one thing is people are in their heads too much. So they're spinning and they're confused. And so they're like, I don't know, and they want to get grounded and they want to get aligned and they want to feel more at peace, and they want to be able to have a sense that they are able to pursue their joy every day, not even allowed, but just like able, So I would say intuitive development, that's huge. People are showing up because they're like, I can tell that something needs to change. I can tell that I need to change. I can tell that I need to open up. I'm feeling or I'm hearing or I'm sensing things and I'm not sure how to move forward with them because it's scary, because it's change. People working through fear, essentially. People showing up because they need tools and they need encouragement and they need someone to give them some guidance about how to create harmony and balance in their life. I'd say that's big. And outside of that, I would say trauma work. Like that's so broad, but
do you find that to be generational?
Yes, in the sense that it's in every generation.
But I mean, are people finally healing those like generational?
In that sense, absolutely. The consciousness on the planet is shifting. It is real. We can really see it. There's plenty of proof. There's plenty of evidence to see what's been happening, even just since the 60s. just since like free love and Ram Dass and like, you know, certain people, spiritual movements, right? Movements, vibrational movements, people collectively wanting to move towards love and acceptance, right? So that's where we're at. We're in that pretty deep now.
Yeah.
And a lot of what you see happening is a polarization of the energies, because there's been an investment in moving the dial to love, right? That's what we see politically. That's what we see.
Yeah, it feels more divisive, but it's because many people, instead of just existing, they're like waking up.
Yeah,
I was saying that to tie in kind of, yes, to answer your question, yes, people are more proactive and they are participating more in healing their personal traumas and generational, ancestral, family trauma, whatever, you know, generational traumas. But it's also about healing the collective trauma on the planet, healing the collective trauma of humanity. That's also what's going on. And so, you know, it's like I said, we share a consciousness. And so everything small is going to reflect to the big, and everything big is going to reflect to the small. And so it really comes back to do your part, right?
Yeah. I had a question too. Doug, what's your take on the astrology make on all of this? So for example,
I was wondering that too.
Yeah.
I love astrology.
I've always loved astrology. I've always followed it. I believe in it. I think it's very interesting, and something that I've always been aware of. And then I just really came into some new information and realized is, you know, I've always been aware that in religion, everything got translated and it got mistranslated in certain situations. But from an astrology perspective, I know that we go through what we would call ages, right? So, you know, that you always hear the reference of the new age, the dawning of a new age, the end of, and so, or even in some religions, rapture and things of that kind. So I'm really curious on what your take is. I know that every age is like 2,150 years or something. And, you know, we're supposed to be coming out of the age of Pisces and moving into the age of Aquarius, which is mostly like about water and things free flowing and spirituality. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, you know, when it comes to the collective consciousness, do you think there's a connection there in terms of where we're going to be more loving and more aware of these types of things?
Absolutely.
Is there a connection, a correlation in terms of what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. I love astrology. I believe in astrology. I use astrology daily in my life. I've always used it and felt that very strongly that it's a tool that people should be able to connect to and utilize. It can really help people. And yes, even the last thing you said, I do notice that in my practice, because I do track astrology. I'm not an astrologer,
right?
But I have my go-tos.
Yeah,
I have my favorites, and I have participated in it for a long time. So I do have a decent library on astrology and different things. So I've dabbled. I know a little, and I do pay attention, and it is pretty interesting to me because I've been doing this for so long and been invested. I see things more humorously.
Yeah.
Kind of in a more kind of light and humorous way, not a mocking way, but just a kind of a joyful and
sure.
You know, humorous, like synchronicity kind of, oh, look, you know, that kind of, and I see people, I watch astrology and I listen and I read of what's going on with the planets and different things. And I see people showing up totally and completely displaying the processes and the energies that are being forecasted, you know? And sometimes that's a great tool because sometimes I'm already in the know and I'm like, I already know where you're at with what's going on. But then how is that personal then? And that's where the work starts then. It's like, how are you personally experiencing that? And how do these things that are happening astrologically actually relate to or reflect what's happening in your life, you know? So.
Yeah. So it's interesting, just to wrap up on that. I just got my 2018 my return. I'm gonna forget the wrong Saturn. No, not Saturn return. Why am I blanking on what it's called? Solar return. I read the 2018 report, which is like 30 pages long, and my 2019 one is on the way to me. But it's crazy how accurate it was. Like, everything that happened throughout 2018, I was like, dang, I should have read this a long time ago. So it is interesting. And, you know, I know there's like controversy out there about astrology. I truly believe that it's divinely created. Like, I believe that astrology is there as a divine guide for our life. Like, this is what's coming up. And, you know, Saturn, the planet of teaching, like, this is where you're going to be learning lessons right now in the career house or in the relationship house. Like, this is what's coming. And so at least you can sort of know, like, all right, that, you know, this is happening, I'm meant to learn a lesson, instead of like being the victim or woe is me and just feeling so, you know, depleted by it. You can say, okay, instead, what can I learn here? And how can I navigate through this with more grace? And so,
well, two things. You're talking about something that I really talk about and work with people a lot, which is we're always at the point of choosing all the time. That's the thing we're doing the most. And what you're talking about is choosing to have a negative or positive disposition with anything, right? This is, you're talking about astrology. So you're like, oh, I could take this one way, or I could take it another way, right? And that's what I wanted to drive about astrology. And I often recommend to my clients, like, you should definitely get your birth chart done. You should definitely, you know, open it. If you try it, see it, investigate it. If you like it, if it resonates, great, go with it. Because I'm all about informed decision making. Right? That's what this is really, that's what this is really about, is like, if I have more information, if I have the most information available to me,
I make an informed choice.
I'm going to make the most informed decision. Now, those things always need to be based on what are my needs, what are my desires, how am I safe, what do I want my experience to be. So that's why intuitive development is so important. That's why being connected to our hearts and our feelings, to be informed about the most fundamental things in a very resolute way, is so important, because then you are the most informed. Then you really do get to guide yourself. You get to do the thing that we're doing all the time, which is choosing in a very conscious way, right? In a very connected way, in an empowered way, because you are letting the information in.
Yeah.
I do feel like we seriously need like a 3 and 4 part series, because I have questions for you about soul groups and like all sorts of things, but we'll move on. Okay.
Repeat guest.
I have so many questions. We'll book you also next quarter. Let us know your calendar.
Great.
I feel like maybe we could do like a monthly update.
There you go.
So Dove, tell us, for our listener, you know, our listener base is, you know, individuals who are looking to find more joy in their life, individuals who are looking to grow their business and receive, you know, energetic compensation through their business, through their gifts, and for being of service to the planet. Like, that's really what our aim is, you know, for our audience and for ourselves. So what would you say, you know, what would you say for that audience base? What do we need to be aware of? What do we need to be conscious of? Like, what comes through for you as, you know, the right message for the audience that will futurely listen to this podcast? What do they need to hear?
About how to create balance between work and bliss,
yeah, like
or
their
just how to pursue joy, period.
Well, I think I see with what you're talking about with the awakening and the consciousness and the intuitive expansion that's happening right now, I see so many people jumping into entrepreneurship and finally like taking the leap to pursue their dreams and their gifts, and basically saying, like, I'm done being miserable and just going through the grind every day. Like, I want to break my heart open and I want to experience joy. I want to figure this out. But it's not easy, right? It's easy to drive into like your same lame job every day and like, you know, punch into the clock and leave. Like, that's easier than taking this huge risk and this huge leap to pursue the work you're meant to do in this life.
Right. Okay.
Or to, you know, take the risk that you need to take in order to have the courage to do whatever you need to do to get obstacles out of the way to pursue joy. So what do we need to hear?
Okay. I would say let's go deep and let's go to the source. The first thing that everyone needs to start with dealing with, what am I going to do in life, whether it's work, whether it's pursuing happiness, whatever it is, right? Whatever you think you're supposed to do, or whatever you feel like you're not clear about doing, or whatever it is. The thing that everyone has to come to an understanding about is, what is the currency? And it's time. Time is our real currency. Time is what we're spending, and it's not something we're getting back. It is finite. Money you can go make more of. You can change jobs. You can change your clothes. You can buy a different car. You can move to a different house, right? You can create the means to do those things. That's renewable. Time is not. So everyone needs to sit with themselves. They need to get in their hearts. They need to spend some time being quiet and still. They need to slow down. Slowing down and simplifying is the priority of transformation. And it is the thing that everyone needs to do in order to get to develop that intuition, to hear their inner voice, to hear their own conversation with source, whatever you want to call it, right? So when you slow down, you start to listen to your feelings, right? Because your feelings don't lie to you.
Mm-hmm.
They might be a lot, but they don't lie. So you get in your feelings and you start to feel, not think, but you start to feel, what do I want to do with my time? Because that's what I'm really spending, right? And when you, and after you go through, you know, decades of your life or whatever, and you look back, you want to be able to look back fondly, right? And not have remorse and regret, right? And not feel like time was wasted or lost, right? That we have memories that we feel really good about, because that's what we're going to take with us. So when we get down to the real truth of it, it's how do you want to spend your time, right? And you use your feelings to figure that out. And then from that place, then you use your thoughts. Your thoughts are your creative machine. Your mind is there to create endless options all day long, every day, possibilities, possibilities, possibilities. So that's why people get crazy, because they live in their head, and that's not where truth lives. Truth lives in your heart. So you just go mad in your head, right? So get in your heart, slow down, figure out how you want to spend your time. Use your feelings to figure that out. Once you figure that out, then use your thoughts as a creative machine, as a creative device to come up with ideas, scenarios, possibilities of how you can spend your time the way you want it and make money.
I love it. I love it.
That's my short, long answer.
I love it.
I'm gonna like turn that into an adjusted quote and put it on Instagram, because the world needs to hear that. I will tag you.
It's my soapbox. I tell people it's something I go over all the time with people, because I feel like it's such a root understanding, and it is really a centralized thing that you have to do, or it's a main thing. It's an integral thing that you have to do to get your realignment on, to get yourself really reorganized, centered, aligned, and divinely guided.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So last question for me, and I know we'll kind of wrap up here soon, but
sorry, if you don't mind, I'm going to extend that really quick.
Yeah.
Because you kind of had I wanted to answer in two parts a little bit, so I can get something else. Because once you get that going, right? Because you're saying, you know, some people then they know what they want to do and they want to go for it, but then how? So once you do have that, once you do have a sense of, I know what I want to do, or I have a sense of purpose, and I have ideas about how to create this life for myself, then the real things that you want to make sure to pay attention to is, you know, do you have some personal tenets? Do you have some value? What are the core values? What are the things that are going to hold you to your commitment to yourself and your dream?
Yep.
Right. And don't abandon those. Don't abandon your self-worth. Don't abandon your dream, you know, and find a way to balance work and play. I'm a real big advocate for fun. I don't think that I think we should have a 4-day work week. Yeah. You know, I think on our planet, we overwork.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we overstress. And so 100%. I would say to people, know that successful business means having successful fun also. You have to schedule the time, make it important, and make yourself a priority, and make the other things that you love a priority outside of money and career passion, right? Family, whatever your pursuits are, value them, make them a priority, make time for them, and create balance in your life. Yeah. Because I feel like that's when people show up the most to see me, is when they feel like they're not in balance. Work's taken over, something's taken over, right? Mm-hmm. So strive to create balance in your life, and know that that doesn't have to be on anyone else's terms. You get to decide what that balance is, and it needs to be calibrated to how you feel, not what you think or what you think other people think about you or how you should be doing it, right? So again, the short, long answer, but I did want to respond to that, because I think that was two parts. It was like, how do you even go on that venture? And then once you've actually discovered what you want to do, or you want to step out and do it, then how do you then maintain harmony and bliss, and you know, find self-care practices, man. I can't tell people
And
this
I have a
enough.
book
I
on
cannot
that.
tell people this enough. In the world now, in the quickening, in the pace of everything that we deal with and go on with, people need to up their self-care game. They need to really find ways to participate in self-soothing, relaxation,
That
regeneration,
parasympathetic system.
rejuvenation, right? Emotional real-time processing. These are all the things that are really fundamental to having that harmony and balance in your life. So
Yeah.
thanks for letting me do that 2-part there.
Oh my gosh, of course, like I trust that needed to be heard. So I love it. No, my last question was, I know there's not a simple answer, but how do we help people get over their fear to bring this to fruition? Fear is the number one reason I hear why people are afraid to end the relationship or get the new job or have the conversation, or we are just paralyzed by fear. And I feel like that's what I help a lot of people do.
Yeah. I would say to people, be brave, be courageous, and be strong, and choose something other than fear, because you've been choosing fear for a long time and you can see where it's got you. It's not doing anything good for you. You're not happy. So why continue to choose it? Choose love. My real good friend has a quote, and I have it on my website. It says, when you start with love, you've already arrived where you want to be.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
I
is the destination.
believe that, and I preach that, and I live that.
That's awesome.
Love. It's a choice. Again, that's where we're most empowered. We're choosing all the time.
Love is a choice. Agreed.
Yeah. So, and it starts with loving yourself, right? That's the priority, is loving yourself. When you learn how to love yourself, when you find out, when you figure it out, when you experience it, when you do it, when you master it, then it becomes so easy to love everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's why we're all here, is to figure that out.
It becomes so easy to see the love in things versus the hate or the fear in things. Mm-hmm. So it's a practice. It's like anything else. And I tell my clients this all the time. Nothing changes with my bumper sticker. And I joke with my friends, change requires change. Right? So you have to be disciplined. You have to show up. You have to participation is the key. If you're not willing to do something different, then you're not going to get a different experience, right? Yeah. So do something different. Show up in a different way. Shake it up. Choose to use different words. Think about how you talk about yourself. There's so many different things you can change, and all of those changes are anchored in love. They're all changes that you're making with respect to love, right? So look at where you're not being loving in your life, and then change that into love, and then you'll experience more love, and you'll see how the synchronicity in life multiplies, amplifies. It just becomes more apparent and more available, and manifestation becomes easier, and self-care becomes easier, and communication becomes easier, and
all of it.
And it all becomes easier. That doesn't mean there aren't challenges. Life fluctuates. That's not going to change. What can change is how you hold yourself and how you're in charge of yourself.
Sure.
And give up trying to be in control of other things outside of yourself, right? Bring things home. Do your actual job. Do what you're actually able to do and what you're really supposed to be doing.
Like my husband says, watch your own bobber.
Yeah. Watch your own bobber. Yeah. There's tiny little wisdoms like that Johnny. All over, everywhere. Yeah.
I have a feeling that me and Johnny would be best friends. So Dove, if I wanted to get in contact with you, if I'm a member of the audience and I really want to benefit from,
or if you're Lisa K,
how do we do it? How do we find you?
I have a website, so that's the easiest place to find me on the interwebs. It's dovelove.earth, because I'm here to serve the whole planet, not just one place. Mm-hmm. So it's .earth. And all my information's on there. All my contact information is on there. I do see people obviously here in person, but I also see people remotely. I work with people all over the planet through various types of technology like the one we're using today. So I encourage people to reach out when they're ready. I just believe that, things happen at the right time. People show up, our teachers show up, our lessons show up when we're ready for them. So don't miss your opportunity.
Right on. So you all heard it.
Everybody, I'm here to help if I can.
Cool. Dovelove.earth.
Wow.
Dovelove.earth, Lisa.
Dovelove.earth. And you can find me on
Dovelove.earth. I'll look you up tonight.
Dovelove.earth on Instagram as well. Dovelove.earth@gmail.com is my email address. So
I like the consistency.
I do too. It's just totally congruent with everything that he said. He's a man of congruency.
There's just alignment all up in your face. I love it.
It's like, you know, his chakras are all aligned. And, you know,
they really
all of it. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Well, we loved having you on the show.
Yeah, good fun. Thanks. By the way, this was my first podcast and first video chat, whatever. I really haven't ventured into this that much yet. I've kind of been hiding out, doing some of my own deep process work the last few years. So,
well, you came across very much as an expert podcast and video chatter. So, way to go.
Yeah. Well, I'm just happy. Thanks for kicking off. I'm going to step out into the world a little bit more. And it was nice to do it with you two for the first time. It was a real pleasure.
Right on. Yeah, we're going to kick your message out so that we can change the world together. If everybody hears it, we got to get you out there.
Yeah, thank you.
Agree. You're a light worker.
Absolutely.
Namaste. Thank you so much.
Yeah, look forward to doing this again sometime.
We absolutely will. Okay, so everybody that's listening, dovelove.earth. Go get it.
Yes.
Go get it.
All right, have a good one. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too
Bye,
as well.
everyone.
Bye, everybody.